screener for the Dave Ramsey Show. Do not get sassy with me or I will hang up on you. Hey, this hour of the show is over, but you can find our full 3-hour podcast on iTunes. We're everywhere for free, here to serve you.
You know, the risk of becoming a victim of ID theft has skyrocketed. I doubt there's one person out there listening who wasn't affected by the data breaches at Target, Anthem, Home Depot, or Yahoo. We're talking hundreds of millions of people, and the only solution those breached companies offered was a year or two of credit monitoring. What a joke. Credit monitoring is not an effective way to battle ID theft. And now those free plans are expiring, leaving people unprotected. You think a thief is going to throw away all your personal info after a year? No way. You're still at risk. You need a plan that covers all types of ID theft, helps reduce your risk, and takes over all the work, no matter when you become a victim. That's why the only plan I have ever recommended is from Zander Insurance. Don't let your guard down and become a victim. Go to ZanderInsurance.com or call 800-356-4282. ZanderInsurance.com.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
Financial.
I'm Chuck Kamlick, CNBC. Stocks are off to a lousy start this week. The Dow is down 58, the Nasdaq 42. Apple's taking a big bite out of the markets. There are growing concerns the new iPhone 8 will be slower and that Apple stock in the future will be lower. General Electric CEO Jeff Immelt is stepping down this August. Immelt's been years formed GE into an industrial, but that stock is a third lower than when he began. Gymboree is now bankrupt and will close at least 375 of its stores. Gymboree's the latest loose sale. Chuck Kamlick, CNBC.
Want to feel like a total boss? Then switch to the best deal in America, Total Wireless. With Total Wireless, you get America's largest, most dependable network plus 5 gigs of high-speed data and unlimited talk and text for only $35 a month. Whoa, how did you get all that? Oh, that's right. You're totally a total boss, and you never sign a contract. Total Wireless, total confidence. Available at Walmart. Always refer to the latest terms and conditions of service at TotalWireless.com.
Attention investors, protect your IRA or 401k by storing your retirement at home with an Augusta Home Delivery Gold IRA. Call Augusta today at 855-858-5807 for a free guide on transferring a portion of your IRA or 401k into approved physical gold and silver coins and store them in your safe at home or at your local bank. Call 855-858-5807 today and discover how you can get up to $2,000 in silver free. Call Augusta today at 855-858-5807.
NBC News Radio, I'm Lisa Carter. Another setback today for President Trump's travel ban order. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco has ruled the president exceeded the scope of his authority. That echoed an earlier ruling from an appellate court in Virginia. The White House has asked the Supreme Court to review the case. Attorney General Jeff Sessions will testify in an open hearing of the Senate Intelligence Committee tomorrow.
There had been speculation that the hearing may be behind closed doors. Sessions will testify about new questions that have come up about meetings with Russian officials.
Matt Cook reports a statement from the Justice Department said Sessions asked for the open session and believes it's important for the American people to hear the truth directly. First daughter and presidential advisor Ivanka Trump says she's surprised by how her father's critics have responded to his time in office. In an interview with Fox and Friends, Trump said she wasn't expecting the viciousness and ferocity that President Trump's critics have greeted his policies with. She did go on to say, however, that her father was never expecting the presidency to be an easy job. Bill Cosby's lawyers rested only a few minutes after the entertainer declined to take the stand in his sexual assault case in Pennsylvania. Experts say Cosby on the stand could have allowed him to charm the jury, but it could also have opened him to a blistering attack by the prosecution. Jurors may hear closing arguments and get the case this afternoon. Today's the one-year anniversary of the deadly assault that claimed 49 lives at Orlando's Pulse nightclub. Survivors, families, victims, and the community holding memorial services today. Orlando's mayor signed a proclamation last week declaring today as Orlando United Day, a day of love and kindness. Sitting atop Forbes' list of the highest-paid celebrities of 2017 is Sean P. Diddy Combs. He grossed $130 million, and this happened 30 years ago today.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
President Reagan's famous Berlin Wall speech to Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio.
Hi, folks. Let's wind the clocks back 60 years. Food was different. Food provided health and nutrition, and using supplements was minimal. Unfortunately, now we have chemicals, GMOs, herbicides, and pesticides that can be quite lethal in the name of our food supply and, of course, the ever-loving dollar. Supplementing our diets can be very important to stay healthy. Cleansing from daily intruders to the body might be critical. Live strong and take charge. Log on to GetTheTea.com. Our herbal tea is a great way to cleanse from intruders. Our supplements is a great way to maintain and improve your health. When your health is not up to par, go to GetTheTea.com. No GMOs, no fillers, and organic, and very helpful in keeping you at the top of your game. Life is too short to feel, you know what I mean. Stay in the game, at the top of your game with GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Again, GetTheTea.com.
Chill Temp Heating and Air reminds our listeners to please get out and donate blood to salute the brave men and women of our armed forces overseas. Every pint of blood donated can save 1 or 2 brave soldiers overseas. So salute our troops and give back the gift of life by giving the gift of blood. This reminder from Chill Temp Heating and Air, serving the area with expert HVAC services for over 11 years. For residential and commercial services, including a full furnace check in the fall, call 760-246-8747 or visit chilltempheatingandair.com. That's Chill Temp Heating and Air.
This is KCAA.
Tumble out of bed and I stumble to the kitchen.
From the studios of KCAA Radio, you're listening to the Family Man's Faith and Finance Show with Donald Carpenter. Join Donald for straightforward conversation, meaningful analysis, and advice to brighten your day. Grab your wife and kids and hang on for the ride of your life.
Welcome, 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 brothers and sisters. It's the Family Man's Faith and Finance Show with Donald Carpenter. Well, we got a pretty good show lined up today, even though it's a Monday and everything seems to be going wrong. Both of my computers went down, couldn't get on the internet, scrambling around like a maniac. Finally figured it out. But, yeah, it's going to turn out to be a great day anyway. You know why? Because I'm breathing, I'm above ground, happy, I'm alive, and living by the grace of God. So that's a pretty awesome day. Pretty awesome day. So, hey, guess what? You know, the portfolios that I'm managing for clients are up 12.28% versus the S&P 500, which is up 9.61%. So we're doing a good job for our clients, and I'm following my clients' advice and tooting my own horn a bit. If you want to reach out to me, you want to talk about becoming a client, get a financial plan, get your life completely organized financially, give me a call, 310-777-6777. That's the office. Call me there. So, hey, do you remember last week when I said I was at a Catholic men's conference and we were talking all about Christian masculinity? Well, there was a priest there. His name's Father Brian Mulliday. And he said that one of the reasons that we see an absence of men in the family and an absence of the role of fathers in fatherhood was because of war deaths. And that really struck me as odd. And I'm like, wait, what? War deaths? And he said that during World War I, millions of men were killed. They couldn't return to their families. World War II, same thing. So I looked it up. And, man, sure enough, World War I killed 11 million men. And World War II killed between 21 and 25 million men. And those are just the soldiers. That's not the civilian casualties. The numbers in the civilian population plus the soldier population, it adds up to hundreds of millions of men. I mean, it's just stunning. So yeah, the decline of the role of men in the family. I mean, it definitely impacted by war. And it reminded me of that song that came out in 1969 by the band War. It's like, war, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. And, it's interesting because in 2015, the Pentagon announced that it would open all combat jobs to women. And people were cheering and shouting, throwing up their hats, going crazy, saying, wow, that's really fantastic. And no one seemed to, care much. They didn't really shudder about it. I mean, it's equality, right? Everybody gets to die the same death in battle. And so why am I bringing all this up? Well, because I read an article about the writer of this article. She was writing about Wonder Woman, the movie Wonder Woman, which I understand is an amazing movie and is just destroying the box office. It's up 263.7 million. It's crushing The Mummy, Pirates of the Caribbean, Guardians of the Galaxy, and even Captain Underpants is falling to the warrior ways of Wonder Woman. But what the writer said in this LA Times article, the title of the article, if you want to look it up, is Why I Cried Through the Fight Scenes in Wonder Woman. And the lady who wrote it was really happy that Wonder Woman was really tough and killing men in the battle scene. I might remind her that that's cartoon violence. No one you know or really love ever gets hurt in the cartoons. And the good guy, or the good gal in this case, always wins. Women in war, just like men in war, in my opinion, it's not that glamorous. It's a bloody death. It ends families. War is the end of civilization, literally the end of civilization. Civilized people aren't behaving civilized anymore. They go to war. And while it may be necessary from time to time to fight the horrors of evil, it's not the least bit glamorous. War does not bring out the best in us. It's a filthy meat grinder where we lose our fathers and sons and brothers. And now we get to lose our moms and daughters too. War is always hideously ugly. War destroys people, both the living and the dead. And war destroys family. Nothing is ever good comes out of war. War is a long way away from love. So don't be too eager for it. Don't be too eager for war. And I wouldn't be too eager to hold up this value that somehow women in war is a good thing, because war does destroy the family. And as Father Moladay was saying, it destroyed the role of men in the family by just removing them from the family, to the tune of 11 million in World War II and 25 million in World War II and 11 million in World War I. And now we get to see, it just made me go nuts. Because why? Because I don't think people see through the imagery. They don't see through the gimmickry that this is just another way to propagate more violence, more war. And now, instead of it just being the task of the unfortunate men, it gets to be the task of unfortunate women as well. And so, while it may be fun in cartoon land and it may be fun in the movies, I actually said, 2 weeks ago, I was talking about how superheroes were really kind of proof that we had some good values. But those superhero movies that I was referring to don't glorify killing. And they actually make doing your duty and standing up for the right and defending the helpless, they make that a virtue. But if we're just going to look at fighting for fighting's sake and killing for killing's sake and think that somehow that's good because now women get to do it, man, we are really, as a culture, headed down the wrong path. So, I guess I started the show off on kind of a somber note, but, guess what? I mean, I was really kind of conflicted because the other two articles that ran across my desk were about some teenage boy who thinks he's a girl, beating all the girls, slaughtering them in high school track, standing up on a podium with a gold medal. So I was going to go over that guy, that guy. And then another article that I read about how the common opinion of the day is that masculinity is toxic. And I was just like, well, let's see. We'll go with masculinity is toxic, or we'll go with this guy's beating all the girls in gym class. Actually, he's in the state championships. It's what's really sad. Or is Wonder Woman, really the hero we should aspire to because she's killing men? So it was kind of, I had this trifecta how bad men are. Oh, they're the curse, you know. But it was funny because I used to have this conversation with women all the time. And I remember one lady, she says, oh, you know, I just want to, she was talking about the Twilight series, and I just want a man that's strong and tough and yet sensitive, but strong enough to rip a guy's throat out. And I said, why don't you just get a Doberman Pinscher? I mean, that make much more sense than having a guy, you know, that's got all that. But, you know, women are always saying, well, I need a guy that's strong, and I need a guy that's tough. And I used to say, well, you know, I mean, you're probably just going after the bad boy. And they would go, well, no, look what happened with, you know, Sandra Bullock and Jesse James. I mean, it was really fantastic. They had a great relationship. And I thought, yeah, but, you know, those relationships don't tend to last. And it wasn't a week later after I had that conversation, it was like, oops, I never really said anything about it then, but you're hearing about it now. You know, sometimes the guys, they can be nice, but they can be too nice. And you don't want that, guys. You want to step up. You want to man up. You want to be a leader, but you want to be a good guy. You don't want to be a tough guy, like I always say. You want to be a good guy. Hey, you can read all about that in my book, The Family Man Stock Market Volatility Survival Guide. And I suggest you get yourself a copy. This is Donald Carpenter with the Family Man's Faith and Finance Show. And we'll be right back. We've got an awesome guest. Steve Ray's coming on. Hang on.
NBC Talk Radio, 1050 AM.
Some combinations were just meant to go together. Chips and salsa, refrigerator and freezer, the internet, and those cute little cat videos. At State Farm, there's another combination meant to go together, home and auto, as in combining your home and auto insurance with one agent, which leads to another combination, saving dollars and cents. Your State Farm agent, the DeSalvo Insurance Agency, is here to help life go right. Combine home and auto and see how much you can save. For more information, call the DeSalvo Insurance Agency at 310-553-0241 in Beverly Hills, or find him on the web at BillDeSalvo.com. That's BILLDISALVO.com.
Hi, this is Donald Carpenter. You know, I've written a pretty interesting book. It's called The Family Man's Stock Market Volatility Survival Guide, How to Defend Your Family in Any Economy. To pick up a copy of The Family Man's Stock Market Volatility Survival Guide, go to Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or the website FamilyManSMBSG.com.
We want to share a secret with you. There's a new and revolutionary way to bring the Earth's most effective organic plant extracts directly to your skin in a pure and healthy way. Lule Botanicals utilizes a breakthrough process called supercritical plant extraction. Your skin will radiate vitality and health like never before. No one wants to kiss an alligator face. Now they won't have to. Visit us on the web at www.lulebotanicals.com. That's LULEIBOTANICALS.com. To get your 20% discount, use promo code LLB20.
Dr. Tatsuo Hirano asks, why suffer and ignore your pain and illness? Stop it before it gets out of control. Acupuncture is like fresh air, revitalizing your body and mind. Dr. Tatsuo Hirano, renowned acupuncturist to the stars and world-class performing artists, will help you get back to optimum health. To explore the healing arts of Oriental medicine, call Dr. Hirano at 818-244-2287. The first 20 callers will receive 10% off their first visit. Just say Donald Carpenter sent you.
Berndorf Law Offices, located in Los Angeles, is an employment, counseling, and litigation boutique law firm for California employers and executives. Employment laws change almost daily, and penalties for noncompliance are substantial. If you're an employer in Southern California and need assistance navigating the waters of employee relations, legal aspects of human resources management, or need defense against a lawsuit, our lawyers can help. Find us on the web at berndorflaw.com. That's BIRNDORFLAW.com. Or on Twitter at Law4CA Employers.
This is Donald Carpenter with the Family Man's Faith and Finance Show, and we're back. You know, went on that little rant about war and how bad it is, and, you know, how you don't always have to be a bad guy if you're going to be a masculine guy. And I've got a guy on the line that's got a really great story about standing up, manning up, taking care of his family. And I want to introduce our guest, Steve Ray. Steve. Hello. Steve. Hello, man.
How are you? I can hardly hear you, but I can hear you.
Oh, we can hear you great. I can hear your phone ringing. You must be a busy man today.
Yeah, it's another radio show. Here, Janet, would you answer that? Thanks. Okay, I'm good.
All right, Steve. How you doing? So I was reading your
Doing good.
I was reading your bio a little bit, and it said that you were started off with a small office cleaning enterprise that turned into a big deal.
Well, when I was in high school, my dad told me, don't waste your time going to college. It's a waste of time and money, and you'll end up with thousands of dollars of debt. When you get out of high school, just start your own company. So when I got out of high school, I started a little company cleaning offices, because that's what I did for pocket money during high school.
Yep.
And I built it up over a period of time to $12 million a year and 600 employees out of our dining room, but I eventually had to get a building. But, yep, it was a nice business. It took good care of us, but when I became Catholic, I sold it so I could do what I really love, teach and study the Bible, lead pilgrimages, write books, and that kind of stuff.
Well, that's really interesting because, you know, a lot of guys that have come on this show, you know, being that it's the Family Man's Faith and Finance Show, we've had a couple of the ladies on, and they're really awesome. But a lot of the guys have a very similar story. They started a business from scratch. They worked really hard. They made a bunch of money, and then they left it behind to do the Lord's work, I guess you could say.
Well, I could have never written a business plan that was more interesting than this. You know, if you'd have said, what would you like to do with your life, I couldn't have done it any better. We travel all over the world. I'm making a whole documentary movie series on the history of salvation. In fact, I'm leaving in 2 days to go to Jordan, Israel, the Palestinian areas, and Egypt to film the life of Elijah and Elisha for Ignatius Press. They just write me a check and I go do it, and it's a lot of fun. And I would have never dreamed. I lead 10 pilgrimages a year to biblical lands. I write books. I speak at conferences, and I get to do it all with my wife. My kids are all grown and married and successful, and 14 grandkids. So I couldn't have written a better business plan. But you know what it was is when I was 17 years old, I gave my life to Jesus. I walked down the road. I was a long-haired hippie kid, and the Lord touched me, and I said, Jesus, I'm going to give my life to you tonight. I'm only 17 years old, and I'm a problem kid, but I'm giving my life to you. And he gave me a verse, Matthew 6:33, and when you read that, it says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things will be taken care of. And he's never let me down.
Well, that's a pretty amazing story. Especially I like the part where you get to travel around with your wife doing the things that you love the most. You've written, you said, several books, but the one that comes to mind is Crossing the Tiber. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
That's my most popular book. The Tiber is the river that runs through Rome. And the meaning of crossing the Tiber, it's a symbolic way of saying I left the world, I crossed the Tiber River and arrived at St. Peter's to the Vatican and became a member of the church. And what it was is I said that when I was 17 years old, I met Jesus. And when I was 39 years old, he finally introduced me to his family. And we became Catholics and met the Catholic Church. So my book, Crossing the Tiber, was never going to be a book. In fact, my father was a Baptist deacon, and he was so angry at me for becoming Catholic. He was my best friend. My dad is the best father a boy ever had. And when I told him I was thinking of becoming Catholic, he clenched his fists and his veins popped out in his neck, and he said, you must be living in sin, and you must be living in a bad life even to think about being a Catholic. And I was so distressed because I broke my heart that I had hurt my dad. So I sat down one night and I started to write a letter, and it started this way. Dear Dad, you're the best father in the world, and I owe you an explanation. And I kept writing and writing, and it ended up being the book Crossing the Tiber.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's how that book got started.
How long did it take you to actually write that?
Oh, probably a year, and most of it was written before I was actually a Catholic. I was kind of explaining to myself and my dad my thinking process, the arguments that I had against the Catholic Church and how they were being top-ended, or so to speak, they're turned upside down. And I was explaining to my dad how the early church was not Protestant. Dad, the early church was Catholic. The very first Christians believed in veneration of Mary and the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist and so on. And I remember it took about a year, a lot of writing and researching, and my dad appreciated it, and they came around, my mom and dad. They never became Catholic. Right. My dad died at 95 years old a while ago, and my mom is 95 years old now, and they were very proud of what we've done and very happy for our books, and they really were especially happy for the effect that it had on my children. Our 4 children took to the Catholic Church like fish take to water, and they just loved it, and they were so full of joy and excitement that my parents couldn't resist, and finally admitted they were happy and proud of us. And my dad died in my arms, knowing that he was proud of me and happy for what we've done. And I even had a Catholic priest come in and pray for him at the end.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Hey, listen, what were some of the biggest hangups that, as a Protestant that you were facing when you thought about what Catholics believe?
Well, of course, for me, the whole issue is one of authority, because if you settle the authority issue, everything else falls into place. If there's always the obstacles of Mary and purgatory and priesthood and the Eucharist and the Pope and all of these other things. But if you deal with the issue of authority, then everything else falls into line. Of course, my whole life I was a Billy Graham kind of a Protestant, a Billy Graham kind of a Protestant. I loved Martin Luther. Right. He was my hero. He brought real Christianity back to the common man. So for me, the whole thing was sola scriptura, the Bible alone, until I realized for a while that all of my Protestant friends and I, when we'd get together, we would argue about what the Bible meant, and we realized there was no final authority. I was a pope. When Martin Luther threw the Pope away, he created a billion new popes. Right. Because every Protestant, that's really the way we should pronounce Protestant, every Protestant who is protesting against the Catholic Church became their own pope. And I was my own pope, and my best evangelical friend was his own pope, and my wife was Popess Janet. And we all became our own popes, because in Protestantism there is no final authority. We say, yes, there is, it's the Bible alone. But everybody interprets the Bible the way they want. That's why there's over 40,000 Protestant denominations today, because everybody interprets the Bible for themselves, and they start their own groups and say, I think the church should be this way. I think we should believe this way. And so I realized there's a big problem with that. Either something is wrong with our methodology, or the Holy Spirit is very confused. And I realized the Holy Spirit wasn't confused. What happened was Jesus gave us a shepherd, and a bunch of sheep walked away from the shepherd and started their own little flocks, and that was a problem. And I realized that the divisions and the different denominations and schisms and sects within Christianity is a great scandal to the world. Jesus said that I pray that they will be unified, that they will be one, that they will have a visible unity. Why? So that the world may know the Father sent the Son. Right. But the opposite is also true. If we show disunity and denominationalism and division, the world has the right to look at us and say, the Father did not send the Son. So I realized there had to be one visible church, and I discovered it was the Catholic Church.
So what was it that tied that together for you, the authority question?
Well, what was the authority question?
Yeah, what tied it together for you? I mean, what brought it to?
Well, I'm in 2 weeks. I'll tell you, Donald. In 2 weeks, I'm going to be up on the top of Mount Sinai. Yep. I'll be there with our filming crew doing the life of Elijah. And when Moses came down from the Mount Sinai 3,500 years ago, he had 3 things. He had the written word of God on stone. He had the oral Torah, which they called the sacred tradition, which was not written down. And Moses had the authority of the chair. It says in Exodus 18 that Moses took his seat. He sat and he judged the people. And when Jesus came along in Matthew 23, he says the scribes and Pharisees, they sit in the chair of Moses. That had become something that not just a tradition, but an actual practice within Judaism. Jesus recognized that authority of the chair of Moses, so that there was 3 legs of the stool. Every stool needs at least 3 legs or to fall down. The written, the tradition, and the magisterium, or the teaching authority.
Yes.
Guess what? When Jesus comes along, it's no longer the 12 tribes, it's now the 12 apostles. It's no longer the chair of Moses, it's now been changed to the chair of Peter. And the same 3 sources of authority are there. Why? Because Israel is the root and the trunk of the tree. The Catholic Church grows out of Israel in the Old Testament. We're the branches, the leaves, and the fruit. If the Old Testament had a 3-legged stool of authority, written, tradition, and magisterium, guess what the new Israel is going to have? The church is the new Israel. So we're also going to have scripture, sacred tradition, and the chair of Peter. And I realized that a 1-legged stool cannot stand. Sola Scriptura could never stand on its own. It only causes confusion. You have to also have the sacred tradition and the authority, the teaching authority of the church. When I realized that, I had no choice but to become a Catholic.
Yeah, well, that makes sense because, sometimes we don't often understand that the history reflects exactly what you're saying for the first 1,500 years of Christianity. So if you look at the historical documents, it's all one entity. Hey, listen, we're going to take a break. Will you hang on with us?
Sure.
All right. This is Donald Carpenter with the Family Man's Faith and Finance Show. We've got Steve Ray, man, and this guy knows his stuff. We'll see you in a minute.
NBC Talk Radio, 1050 AM.
Some combinations were just meant to go together. Chips and salsa, refrigerator and freezer, the internet, and those cute little cat videos. At State Farm, there's another combination meant to go together, home and auto, as in combining your home and auto insurance with one agent, which leads to another combination, saving dollars and cents. Your State Farm agent, the DeSalvo Insurance Agency, is here to help life go right. Combine home and auto and see how much you can save. For more information, call the DeSalvo Insurance Agency at 310-553-0241 in Beverly Hills, or find him on the web at BillDeSalvo.com. That's BILLDISALVO.com.
Hi, this is Donald Carpenter. I've written a pretty interesting book. It's called The Family Man's Stock Market Volatility Survival Guide, How to Defend Your Family in Any Economy. To pick up a copy of The Family Man's Stock Market Volatility Survival Guide, go to Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or the website FamilyManSMVSG.com.
We want to share a secret with you. There's a new and revolutionary way to bring the Earth's most effective organic plant extracts directly to your skin in a pure and healthy way. Lule Botanicals utilizes a breakthrough process called supercritical plant extraction. Your skin will radiate vitality and health like never before. No one wants to kiss an alligator face. Now they won't have to. Visit us on the web at www.lulebotanicals.com. That's LULEIBOTANICALS.com. To get your 20% discount, use promo code LLB20.
Dr. Tatsuo Hirano asks, why suffer and ignore your pain and illness? Stop it before it gets out of control. Acupuncture is like fresh air, revitalizing your body and mind. Dr. Tatsuo Hirano, renowned acupuncturist to the stars and world-class performing artists, will help you get back to optimum health. To explore the healing arts of Oriental medicine, call Dr. Hirano at 818-244-2287. The first 20 callers will receive 10% off their first visit. Just say Donald Carpenter sent you.
Berndorf Law Offices, located in Los Angeles, is an employment, counseling, and litigation boutique law firm for California employers and executives. Employment laws change almost daily, and penalties for noncompliance are substantial. If you're an employer in Southern California and need assistance navigating the waters of employee relations, legal aspects of human resources management, or need defense against a lawsuit, our lawyers can help. Find us on the web at berndorflaw.com. That's BIRNDORFLAW.com. Or on Twitter at Law4CA Employers.
This is Donald Carpenter with the Family Man's Faith and Finance Show. We've got on the line Steve Ray. He developed a multi-million-dollar business. He had a conversion of faith. He decided that and found out that he might look into the Catholic Church. And when he did that, his dad got upset. And he wrote a book called Crossing the Tiber to try to explain the conversion. And you've just heard a whole segment on that. Boy, that was pretty fantastic. And so now, miraculously, Steve is touring the Holy Land, taking people over there and giving them all kinds of blessings with the knowledge that he's accumulated. Do I got that right, Steve?
Yep, that's right. If people want to learn about our pilgrimages, I have a website, not just about our pilgrimages, but about all my books. I have hundreds of documents I've written to help people understand the Catholic faith, hundreds of conversion stories of religions from Lutheran and Jehovah's Witnesses to Muslims becoming Catholic. So my website is CatholicConvert.com, CatholicConvert.com. And on there, we also have a link to our pilgrimage site. And you're absolutely correct. I take pilgrimages to the Holy Land, about 7 of them a year. And also we go to Lourdes and Fatima, to Rome, to St. Paul cruises, Ireland, Poland, Mexico. But mainly my first love is the Holy Land. We take 7 groups there a year. And we love it. I've been there over 150 times to Israel and Jordan and Egypt, and we love doing that with groups.
Oh, that's amazing. You've got to know that place pretty well. What are the do you have security concerns?
No. People say to me, aren't you afraid to go to Israel? No. I say, no, I'm afraid to go to Detroit. I live 40 miles outside of Detroit, and I feel far safer in Israel than I do in my own major city nearby. Israel is very safe. I've taken thousands and thousands of people, and they all, when they get there, they're kind of hunkered down, waiting for the bombs to drop. And by the time we're done, they're all laughing at themselves, saying, this is the most beautiful country I've ever been to, the most spiritual experience. I never felt threatened. This is wonderful. What was I afraid of? So, no, Israel, you have no security concerns coming to Israel. I know where to go. I know where to stay away from. And it's a wonderful experience. And I tell you, if you really want to understand the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you have to understand the 5th Gospel, Gospel number 5. That's the Holy Land. And that's why I love to take people there, because I help them read the 5th Gospel. And once they read that one, they sure understand the other 4 a whole lot better.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You know, you were talking about some of your theological works that are on your website at CatholicConvert.com. And you don't know this, but I read your treatment of Mary as the Ark of the Covenant, and I thought that was pretty great. That was the first time I'd ever read it, and it was
really,
and it was pretty inspiring to me. And I've seen it several other times, and I've actually found it in the work and the ideas of the early church fathers, which was even more fascinating. But I just wanted to say thanks. I really enjoyed your explanation of that typology of Mary coming right out of the Old Testament and fitting into the New.
The way I view the Old and New Testament is they are two great musical pieces that sing back and forth to each other. Jesus is kind of in the middle as the conductor. And the Old Testament starts a theme and sings it out with the bassoons and the oboes and the voices. And then the New Testament picks that theme up and it develops it more, and it cascades through the universe, and then it sings back to the Old Testament. And people think Catholics don't know their Old Testament. They think it's old. Why would I want anything old? If I said to you, Don, if we had a party, and I had a table over here with pizza that's a year old, and I got some pizza that just came in from today, and it's piping hot. Which one did you want, the old pizza or the new pizza? Well, go ahead, take the new pizza, throw the old pizza away. And that's the way most people think of the Old and New Testaments. I'll take the New Testament. The Old Testament, just throw it away. We don't need it. But the Old Testament is the foundation. It's the explanation. You can't understand the New Testament without the Old, and you can't understand the Old without the New. They work together like these two beautiful pieces of music singing back and forth to each other. And then when you come to Mary, one of the reasons that I understood Mary, Protestants many times don't have any respect for her. They just think that God could have used any girl and it didn't matter. But Mary is at the very heart of the salvation story. It goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden when he said to the devil, I'll bring enmity between you and the woman and your seed and her seed. And he had Mary in mind. And Mary was the new woman, the new Eve. And the early church understood that the woman in the garden, the first Eve, tied the knot of sin. Mary, the new Eve, she unties the knot of sin. The Ark of the Covenant, the Old Testament, had within it the Word of God in stone. It had the manna from the wilderness and a stick that proved the priesthood of Aaron. Mary is the new Ark of the Covenant, and in her womb is the new Word of God, not on stone but in flesh. In her is not the manna in the wilderness, but the bread of life that comes down from heaven. Mary is, when you can see how the Old Testament prepares you for Mary, it's called typology. And then the prefigurement is fulfilled in the New Testament. And then it helps understand who Mary is, what the Eucharist is. All of these things are prefigured in the Old Testament. And if you have eyes to see and ears to hear, and you go back and look at the Old Testament through the lens of Jesus Christ, it all makes sense.
Yeah, I was asking my buddies the other day, what do you guys think of Mary? And they go, well, Mary's just a girl. I said, well, what do you think about what Luke says about Mary? And they go, well, what does it say? Well, all generations will call me blessed. Oh, yeah, that's in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It sure is.
And a good question then is what church is this one that still calls her blessed? Well, it's the Catholic Church.
That's right. Hey, so but you do a tour that goes to the living quarters of the Holy Family, is that right?
Well, we do. A part of our pilgrimage is based on the Rosary, so we follow all the sites of the Rosary, which is all the sites related to Mary and Jesus. And so, of course, that takes us to Nazareth. And there are Nazareth was a small town, no major streets going through it. It's why Nathanael says in Acts chapter 1, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Nazareth was a small podunk village. It had 25 caves. They didn't live in homes like you and I do with electricity and refrigerators and blow dryers and air conditioning. They lived in caves carved into the side of the hill, very rustic. No more than 250 people lived in that little village of Nazareth, and Mary lived there. And today there are two churches built. There's more than that, but there are two major churches. One is built over the home where Mary was a young girl with her mother Joachim and Anna. Another church called the Church of St. Joseph is built over the cave that was for 30 years the home of the Holy Family, the 30 silent years when Jesus lived with Mary and Joseph there in Nazareth. So I take my groups in and I show them, here is the cave where the angel came and said exactly what the Rosary does. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. And then the other cave is the one where Mary lived with Jesus and Joseph for 30 silent years. It's the home that they left every year to go to Jerusalem, and then they came back, and Joseph was a carpenter. And the word carpenter doesn't mean what we think it means today. It means someone who worked with hard materials. It was kind of like a day laborer, a rock cutter, somebody who built the walls of these old cities, carried the rocks out of the quarries and set them up on the stone walls and so on. They were hard workers. You wouldn't have recognized Jesus and Joseph. They would have had brown skin, wrinkled from the sun. They would have had calluses all over their hands. They had scars from working hard all the time. Their muscles were like iron because they walked everywhere. These guys were manly men. Right. And Mary was a tough little Jewish girl because when she went to visit her relative Elizabeth, it was 100 miles. She had to walk 100 miles to visit Elizabeth and
pregnant.
back again.
Well,
people
pregnant,
don't realize that.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that because I think I've heard you say before that she was like a little Flintstones type of a woman.
Yeah, it's that they live like the Flintstones, where they lived in caves. They had to walk 15 minutes to the well to get water. Mary brought the water back on a jug on her head. Twice a day she'd have to go to the well, morning and night, and little Jesus would tag along with her.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Hey, listen, we've got a few minutes left in the segment. So tell us a little more about how our listeners can get a hold of your book and read some of your great stories and find out more about your pilgrimage. I keep calling them tours, but they're really sacred tours. They're pilgrimages.
Yeah, that's a good distinction you make, Donald, because Protestants call them tours. They don't really like the word pilgrimage. Martin Luther was against the idea of pilgrimages, and so they don't call it that. They call it a tour. But we as Catholics call it a pilgrimage, and we weren't the ones that invented pilgrimages. The Holy Family, the Jews, went on pilgrimage every year up to Jerusalem. Right. Pilgrimage was something that comes right out of the Old Testament, and it was something practiced in the New Testament and the first centuries of the church. So pilgrimage is a very Catholic Christian idea that has been abandoned by the Protestants, really. And the way you can find out, CatholicConvert.com is my website, and we lead a lot of groups. I also have made 8 movies. They're documentary movies. They're kind of rollicking adventures in kind of the style of Indiana Jones with a crocodile hunter. And I've made movies on Abraham. I went to Iraq and to Israel and Turkey, and I've done Jesus and Mary and Paul and Peter and King David and Solomon and Moses all on location, and we're going to film Elijah and Elisha this week. And it's all at CatholicConvert.com. There's a lot of stuff there. I put up a daily blog of information and defending the Catholic faith and explaining this and that, and I think people will enjoy it. CatholicConvert.com.
No, that's great. That's great. And your book can be found there as well?
Yep, I also have a 450-page book on the Gospel of John. Oh. I have another book called Upon This Rock, which is a defense of Peter and the primacy of Rome in the first 8 centuries. I've got another book called Faith for Beginners. It's a book on the creeds that makes the Catholic faith very simple for people, for kids or newcomers, so to speak. And I also have a new book coming out called The Papacy, and 2 more books coming out in the next year or 2.
Wow, so you've just been taking it easy, sitting on the easy chair, I see.
Yeah, I love potato chips and football. That's all I do is lay on the couch.
Hey, Steve, it's been awesome having you on. Such a great guest, very lively, and I love your stories. I appreciate you coming on with us.
Well, thank you, Donald. Keep up the good work, and God bless you.
When you're back in town, I hope you come back and see us. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right, God bless.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Donald Carpenter with the Family Man's Faith and Finance Show. We'll be right back.
NBC Talk Radio, 1050 AM.
Some combinations were just meant to go together. Chips and salsa, refrigerator and freezer, the internet, and those cute little cat videos. At State Farm, there's another combination meant to go together, home and auto, as in combining your home and auto insurance with one agent, which leads to another combination, saving dollars and cents. Your State Farm agent, the DeSalvo Insurance Agency, is here to help life go right. Combine home and auto and see how much you can save. For more information, call the DeSalvo Insurance Agency at 310-553-0241 in Beverly Hills, or find him on the web at BillDeSalvo.com. That's BILLDISALVO.com.
Hi, this is Donald Carpenter. You know, I've written a pretty interesting book. It's called The Family Man's Stock Market Volatility Survival Guide, How to Defend Your Family in Any Economy. To pick up a copy of The Family Man's Stock Market Volatility Survival Guide, go to Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or the website FamilyManSMVSG.com.
We want to share a secret with you. There's a new and revolutionary way to bring the Earth's most effective organic plant extracts directly to your skin in a pure and healthy way. Lule Botanicals utilizes a breakthrough process called supercritical plant extraction. Your skin will radiate vitality and health like never before. No one wants to kiss an alligator face. Now they won't have to. Visit us on the web at www.lulebotanicals.com. That's LULEIBOTANICALS.com. To get your 20% discount, use promo code LLB20.
Dr. Tatsuo Hirano asks, why suffer and ignore your pain and illness? Stop it before it gets out of control. Acupuncture is like fresh air, revitalizing your body and mind. Dr. Tatsuo Hirano, renowned acupuncturist to the stars and world-class performing artists, will help you get back to optimum health. To explore the healing arts of Oriental medicine, call Dr. Hirano at 818-244-2287. The first 20 callers will receive 10% off their first visit. Just say Donald Carpenter sent you.
Berndorf Law Offices, located in Los Angeles, is an employment, counseling, and litigation boutique law firm for California employers and executives. Employment laws change almost daily, and penalties for noncompliance are substantial. If you're an employer in Southern California and need assistance navigating the waters of employee relations, legal aspects of human resources management, or need defense against a lawsuit, our lawyers can help. Find us on the web at berndorflaw.com. That's BIRNDORFLAW.com. Or on Twitter at Law4CA Employers.
Welcome back. Donald Carpenter with the Family Man's Faith and Finance Show. Man, Steve Ray, wasn't he great? That was probably one of the first times I could not get a word in edgewise. That was pretty good. Well, he's got a lot to say and a lot of good stuff to say. So, it's the Family Man's Faith and Finance Show, so we're going to start talking a little bit about the finance part. So I got into a little bit of a Facebook battle this weekend because one of my buddies posted something positive about Trump. And then a bunch of people came in, that he couldn't believe that the mainstream media wasn't saying positive things about Trump. And you know what? I don't really care about positive things about Trump or negative things about Trump. But what gets under my skin is that the mainstream media doesn't say positive things, like about the economy, which is what I care about. So I posted that. We've had this amazing elements going on in the economy for 7 months, and you don't hear a word about it. And so some of the people that were wanting to disagree with him and then disagree with me were saying, yeah, but this is Obama's economy, and then we're just living off of what Obama did, and Obama this and Obama that, and Trump's no good, and Trump didn't do anything, Trump hasn't done anything, and I was just like, man, let me just explain it to you one more time. Presidents have nothing to do with the economy. We don't live in China, folks. We don't live in China where the central government controls everything. We live in a free market economy where if you want to set up a business like Steve Ray did, or you want to set up a business like the one you have, or somebody down the street wants to set up a business and do what they want to do, they get to do that without having to run to the president and asking him if it's okay. So they have very little. Okay. So how good is the economy going? Well, the Russell 2000, the strongest 2,000 companies in the country, in the United States, hit an all-time high Friday. Did you hear that on the mainstream media? No. All-time high on Friday. As a matter of fact, the tech sector year-to-date is up 15.84%, as opposed to the energy sector, which is down 11.82%. Now, a few months ago, when I started this radio show, I was telling you and everybody that would listen to me that growth was accelerating and inflation was decelerating. And that is reflected in those two indices. Tech sector going up means that growth is accelerating. Energy sector going down means that inflation is decelerating. So if you made that bet, hey, I'm going to buy some tech, or that, good quality techs, or even an index like an ETF, a tech ETF, or I'm going to sell energy, or I'm going to even take a risk and short energy, you made a great decision and you're making money for yourself and your family. But not only that, I said this 2 weeks ago, industrial production hit a 28-month high. A 28-month high 2 weeks ago. Mainstream media, did you hear that? Nope, not a single word. As a matter of fact, the first quarter earnings growth and sales growth results were phenomenal in the S&P 500, in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, in the NASDAQ 100, and now again in the Russell 2000. On Friday, Gallup released their job creation index. Guess where it's at? A record high. And all that has absolutely nothing to do with Trump. He hasn't done anything. He has, the only thing that could maybe impact the economy is deregulating all the stiff regulations that governing business and reducing taxes. But there's been no substantive change in taxation law or regulation. Nothing's changed. People have just gone back to work. It's cyclical, folks. It goes up and it goes down in a basic sine curve pattern. And if you get an idea that if you figure out how to measure those things, if you figure out how to measure the rates of change as it's going up, well, you can get prepared for more upside. And if you can figure out the rates of change as things are going down, you can get prepared for more downside. And if you can't figure that out, then you can hire someone like me who can figure it out for you. And I hire people that help me figure that out as well. And so we're ahead of that curve, which is why my clients' portfolios are up 12.28%. And that's way ahead of the market. So that's it. I just had to go on that little rant and say that it's not, presidents don't run an economy ever in this country. Ever. Ever is a very long time. So guess what? We have some economic reports coming out this week. Today was pretty quiet, but on Tuesday we got the FOMC meeting with Janet Yellen. That starts tomorrow. And the NFIB Small Business Optimism Index comes out tomorrow. PPI comes out also. That's a Producer Price Index. And Redbook. Those are going to give us a barometer on how the economy is going. That all comes out on Tuesday. Wednesday, we have the MBA mortgage applications, the Consumer Price Index, retail sales, and business inventories, the petroleum report, and the FOMC announcement. And so we'll see if they're going to change rates. We'll see. Thursday is always the biggest reporting day, and that's going to be the jobs report for jobless claims, unemployment, the Philadelphia Fed Business Outlook Survey, Empire State Manufacturing Survey, import and export prices, industrial production. See, I'm thinking that's going to be either flat or another uptick, and we'll see if I'm right about that. Bloomberg Consumer Comfort Index, the Housing Market Index, the EIA Natural Gas Report, Treasury, International Capital, the Fed balance sheet, and the money supply. Friday, we have something called quadruple witching. Woo! They make a big deal out of quadruple witching on the financial channels, and basically it's just the expiration of options and futures contracts. It's no big deal. Sometimes it's volatile, sometimes it's not. It's not a big deal, but they, because it has the word witching in it, and because it's been traditionally thought of as like an uncertain time, they make a lot of hay out of that nonsense. But you know what? It doesn't affect the rates of change one way or another, and that's really all you should be looking at, in my opinion. Housing starts come out on Friday, the Atlanta Fed business inflation expectations, and consumer sentiment. So let me just say this. Okay, I have to give you a little bit of a disclaimer. You can't take my advice and go do something about it. You have to hire an advisor that's qualified and that, has a good track record, and somebody that you know and somebody that you trust. There's that. But having said that, this information I'm giving you is for your edification, educational purposes, even maybe you find it entertaining. And that's it. Don't do anything based on what I say unless you become my client. After that, we can talk. But until then, talk to your advisor. So here's the deal. We're at all-time highs again in the market. It's the fourth or fifth time this year. Do you go out and run out and buy the stock market when it's up at its highest point ever? No, you don't. In my opinion, bad move. What you want to do is wait for a correction. So you might want to sell a few things off when it's running up here at its all-time high, like it was on Friday. And then it came back and it's going down, and the market looked like, last time I checked it, 20 minutes ago, it was down today, and it might go down another few percentage points. And so what have I been saying you should do? That old Wall Street adage is buy the dips, sell the rips. So if you want to do that, I think that's probably a good way to make some money if you know how to measure the rates of change. And that's all there is to it. So that, there's a way of making money. The market's accelerating is what I'm saying. And if you hold on to it, you're going to experience the losses in a very choppy market, but you'll also experience some of the gains. If you get ahead of the drops, you can buy at the bottom and sell at the top, which is kind of what you're supposed to do. That's what you've heard. But then we hear these things that it can't be done. It's impossible to time the market and all that nonsense. And if you're one of those people that believes that, don't do it. You shouldn't be doing it if that's what you believe. But there are a few people out there that are like, professional baseball players in the stock markets, and they know how to hit a home run now and then. They know how to take advantage of a good pitch. They know how to, they're good at their sports. They're good at their timing. And there are a lot of people that know how to make money now and then. All right, so that's that. Take advantage of this market because we are in a growth environment, and it's going to continue, in my opinion, for another 2 to potentially 3 quarters. Take advantage of that. So I wanted to say something just a little bit before we go about marriage. Marriage is not just a fun hobby. It's not just a nice idea. Not just two people living together, enjoying each other's company. Marriage is the fulfillment of a couple's physical, mental, and spiritual union. Marriage is a sacred endeavor enveloped by the mystery that a man and woman under the union and vocation of sacred covenant can become one. One in body, one in mind, one in soul and spirit. The identity of two collapses under the weight and grace of God's gift of one person to the other. The mutual sacrifice of will and the want arises to the occasion of what is best for the other. Marriage becomes the fulfillment, the ultimate union of humankind to godliness, because after all the holy angels and saints and the sacred scriptures themselves tell us that God is love. Love yourself in your marriage. It's God's plan after all. All right, so that's why I'm always telling you to make a bubble bath for your wife. Join the bubble bath revolution. You got to make her some dinner. Take care of that woman more than she takes care of you. You want to learn how to do that? Get a hold of my book, The Family Man Stock Market Volatility Survival Guide, How to Defend Your Family in Any Economy. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or on my website, The Family Man Stock Market Volatility Survival Guide. You can be on my blog. Buy some Lule Botanicals. Get some DeSalvo insurance. Dr. Hirano took care of my back pain for 6 years. I've been pain-free. And this is Donald Carpenter with the Family Man's Faith and Finance Show, and we'll see you next week.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
I'm Chuck Kamlick, CNBC. Stocks end the day the way they started, lower. The Dow dropped 36, the Nasdaq fell 32, and the S&P was off 2.